Okay, good morning. We should get started. I think we're a few minutes behind schedule. Thank you for being here in spite of the circumstances. It's great, this great event. The morning panels were very interesting, talking about the future of water, or AI and infrastructure and technology. Now I think this panel is going to put things into perspective. The Leaders Forum is going to talk about how the future of water is seen from people that build, operate infrastructure in a circular type economy. I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing the panel. I'll just mention who they are, but the bios are available in the program. But the logic behind today's panel is to have people that build, operate, and own the assets and finance as well. So we have the whole cycle from that perspective. So I'll just go through the panel, introducing them so you know who they are when they speak. So immediately to my left is Mr. Dionisio Garcia Comin. He's the CEO of Global Omnium, and he is our host here in Valencia, so thank you very much. Beautiful city. To his left is Mr. Adel Hagekhalil, who's the General Manager for the Streets Department in the City of Los Angeles. Adel ran the wastewater system in the City of LA, and he was the President of the National Clean Water Association in the United States. To his left is Mr. Jose Diaz-Caneja, who's the CEO of Acciona, Agua. And Acciona, I think, has touched so many lives throughout the globe, and I can hardly think of a firm that has such a large global footprint, and very big in desal, as you know, amongst other things, wastewater, desal. They have been recognized in that space. To his left is Mr. Alistair Clark with EBRD, and he's the money guy, so be nice to him. And Alistair is strong on, he's the Director of Sustainability and Infrastructure with EBRD. To his left is Mr. Silver Mugisha with the NWSC from Uganda, and he has the coolest name on the panel, no doubt. And he's going to talk to us about his perspective, and also Africa is a massive growth area, as you know, and he's going to discuss that as well. And last but not least is Mr. Joao Simao Pires with the Portuguese Water Partnership, and also he's gonna talk to us about how things look like from an association perspective. So he has private companies, he has public companies as members, and he can talk about that partnership. So with this, each panelist is going to speak for a few minutes. I'll let Dionisio speak first, and then he has a presentation, and then we'll have a discussion afterwards. So without further ado, Dionisio, please, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending the WEX and being here in our hometown. I hope you have a very nice stay and useful days here. My name is Dionisio Garcia. I am the CEO of Global Omnium, which is the company or the group of companies which brings water to Valencia and metropolitan area. I have a little presentation of the group, and I'll try to enhance what I think it makes us different, and use this to show you how we see the future, which is the theme of this panel. Okay. Is it already? One second, sorry. Okay. Our group exists since about 130 years ago. Our company brought the water to Valencia town, and we have remained here since that moment. So we are not huge, but we have a huge experience. Our main activity is all what it is involved in the integral water cycle, and that you know well. I don't have to explain you what is it about. And, sorry. And we also run other activities. One of them is we manage the aquarium that you will visit tonight. It's a very nice activity and very much related with our main activity in what concerns the environmental care. Well, we are not huge. I'm not going to bore you with numbers. We delivered in. Sorry, but okay. Some problems. Well, we have an international presence in Africa, Asia, and America, and we work in 11 Spanish regions. Our turnover is around 400 million, and we have a stable partnership. It's a family which is in the sector for 3 generations, and around 3,000 employees. I'm sorry, but this is okay. This is a little bit all we do: the drinking water, wastewater, and services, and engineering. We are all the full set of the integral water cycle. Okay, I think this is more important, is a little bit to speak about our values. First, I will say service vocation. You know, water never sleeps, so we have to be always aware and to be always ready to accomplish a good service to our customers and the administration. Technical capacity is very important. Mr. Cabrera said before that the arrows were important, but the hunter is even more important. No? So we need good technicians in our companies. Transparency in management is something new, or not that new, but every time more important. Over the administration, the customers wants to have more information, they want to have it quicker, and we have to be prepared to give them this. No? And to give them this is with new technologies is an essential tool, and I will try to tell you how we do at home. No? And finally, I think it's very important for a sustainable world, all what relates with environmental. Okay, Democrito, who was considered the father of modern science, said that everything is a fruit of lack or need. No. We in Global Omnium we had the need to improve. We had the need to differentiate from competitors and to manage the scarcity of water that we have in our main region. And with this need of and a lot of work and deal, we had the luck to have a prolific journey, changing of way of working, thanks to the digitalization of our group, which is something that makes us different. We don't have a big size, but I think we are flexible and fast. No? Sorry. Okay. And sorry for that. I would say that nothing would have happened without the Indians, the Harrows again. No? The people who are behind. We combine people from the operation side, which are every day facing problems, and people from IT, which are giving solution tools to solve more efficiently those problems. So. How was our trip? We started in 2006 without even knowing what the word digitalization meant. We started focusing first on processes, on the commercial side, and also on the operation side. Then we started to put a lot of sensors to measure the pressure, to measure the flow. And we finally achieved a very important project, which was to build a fixed net in the Valencia town with 450,000 intelligent counters. That gave us a very powerful tool in a way to manage the net, because we knew almost in real time how much water we were putting in the net and how much water we were invoicing. So the difference is told us that there could be a problem, and also in the customer side, giving them a lot of quick information, and I will talk about the benefits of it now. In 2013, when we thought we were the champions, we thought we were very good, but we suddenly realized that we were not that good, no? And we had what we call the crash of 2013, because we realized that the data were in different silos, and the relationship was like a spaghetti dish, so everything was a little bit mixed. So we didn't have all the information as accurate as we wanted, and as fast as we wanted, no? So we thought that we had to, with the experience acquired, rebuild the system, no? And we did what we call the data-centric platform. Sorry, and then in 2007. This has grown. We thought that there was an interest in the international market, and we did a spin-off of Global Omnium, and we create Hydrica and the Go Hub. The Go Hub permits us to bring new knowledge from new technologies from young people on the university and to apply them to our industry, or even to other industry where we can learn about. Okay, the benefits of these digitalizations were the reduction in NRW, or operational optimization, improvements in planning, economic and customers, a lot more information and agility, giving them information, and a smart water engine. Some of the figures are reduction in the energy consumption, reduction in the CO2 that we emit to the atmosphere, savings of water, a lot of frauds detected, and a lot of leaks, and we reduced in 60%, sorry, sorry for this. Well, we reduce the number of complaints of the customers, because we could give them information about if there was a problem in their house, and not wait for the 2-month billing time. No. Okay. The model is we have a big, or not a big, but medium-sized facility, where we have proved everything. We have the Go Hub, where we have the new and fresh ideas. And we have Hydrica, that we try to offer this platform internationally. And how we see the future. We have the Sustainable Development Goals that give us a good idea of where to go. No? We have the famous 5 Ps. We have people, we have a customer commitment, and administration commitment to give them information and to give a transparent management. Planet, I think environmental commitment is a must nowadays. Partnership, we have partnerships because union makes us stronger. We have partnerships with the customers, administration, suppliers, and also with other facilities with whom we share experiences. Prosperity. We can only grow if society grows, so we also try to make our society more prosper, contributing, especially in our hometown, with a lot of activities. And then peace is difficult to speak about this from our side, but it's of course a great goal to achieve, and if we can do something for it, we'll be very happy. Well, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Fascinating. So perhaps I think the next logical discussion will come from Jose to talk to us about Acciona and what Acciona is doing in this space. Maybe I'll hand you this might be easier.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mohsen. Thank you very much for WEX Congress to invite us, for Global Omnium who host us here, and all that in this, with all this strange situation that we are having with this COVID-19 and all these things, that I personally believe that we are exaggerating the thing a little bit, even if of course we have to be cautious and take the required measures. Let's see how the thing evolves over the next couple of weeks. Having said that, well, for the ones that do not know Acciona, just a very brief introduction. We are infrastructure groups. We develop infrastructures in energy, transport, some social infrastructure also, and water. And I would like just to make a small point. I don't want to go so long in time in that, but probably 15, 20 years ago, we started our approach on sustainability. At that point in time, probably the word was not was known, of course, but was not very credible for some people in terms of how things would be emerge or managed in terms of developing infrastructures at the level, at the speed that is required, and adding the point of sustainability required in the development of the works. I think that after all this time and the situation and how the thing has evolved over the last 15 years in the world, we are all now much more believers on this term. No? And I just put an example. In 2005, our claim below the name of Acciona was the pioneers in development and sustainability. A couple of years ago, we understand that we have achieved the level in which everybody is quite on board on this term, and we are changing. And we changed last year our claim, also in a branding point of view, to business as unusual. Business as unusual because we understand that we should be, and after being quite successful promoting renewable energies and water, in terms of being sustainable and being efficient in the way we deliver that. We need to look at the whole picture from a much more wide angle. We need to understand that sustainability on its own would be a way of doing business, and even if it would have a cost, and Mr. Adam could let us know a little bit about that and how multilaterals would be involved in that. This cost would repay, and is not avoid the statement having in mind how the pricing level, for example, in PV energy, in photovoltaic energy, has gone down over the last 5 years. We are seeing now that PV is even more competitive compared to the most established energy sources that could be combined cycles of larger scale or any other type. Even big groups, huge groups that were involved in fossil energies or oil and gas are now promoting sustainability as one of the main words, and it drives us to circular economy. And the cost that each day is lower for doing things in this way, which we firmly believe is the right way of doing it. But even if that would be slightly more expensive still in some areas, we should be very transparent on that, be brave enough, and I also would like to ask public authorities to be transparent on this transmission of cost and stating them in the right way and working under the principle of solidarity and not subsidy. That does not create any good for the system itself. And going to the water business, in which is the one that I drive in our group, I just would like to say that has been booming for the last 2-3 years in many different aspects. Not only desalination, that of course has been a huge market over the last 3-4 years, mainly in the region of the Gulf. But in many other aspects, reuse as a tool for just not consuming the water that we do not have. And this market, I think, that is now booming after many years of saying that it will burst. It's already in the right line of that. And I will encourage all of you to promote it. This is our day-to-day bread and butter. So Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. I think the next logical speaker would be Adel from an owner's perspective, so I'll hand over the microphone to Adel.
Thank you, Mohsen, and great to be with you, and thanks to WEX. I come from a small city called Los Angeles, and from now on I'm going to call it Los Angeles, so Valencia. So it's we're the home of the 2028 Olympics, and really we have a very progressive city and leading the way for making the city sustainable, resilient for the future. But I come from water. For the last 30 years I worked in water, but now the mayor asked me, Mayor Garcia, who's the chair of C40, to lead our streets department and really bring an integration, as I did with water, where we brought stormwater, wastewater, drinking water into a holistic one water approach. He wants me to bring the same integrated approach into our city as a whole. So I'm part of the water cabinet, but also we're looking at how we can really make the city more resilient in every facet. It's not just water, it's transportation. So he, last few weeks ago actually, he just signed executive directive about the new Green New Deal for Los Angeles, where we actually doubled down on many of the things that we're doing in Los Angeles. In LA, we have, and he basically has the 5 zeros, the zero carbon grid, zero carbon transportation, zero carbon buildings, zero wasted water, and basically zero waste. And all that is being done together in a holistic approach. And if you can go to our website in lacity.org, you'll find our Green New Deal and all the metrics, and he accelerated all these metrics to really make the city a better city. But I want to say something. It's technology is not really the solution. We need to remember it's not just technology. It's about people. And if we forget that what we're doing is for people, we're losing the battle. So the goal of what we want to be doing for the future is to make people's lives better. And that's our job as an industry as a whole. We can't just think about just building a pipe or building a treatment plant or improving the energy grid. We need to think about how we're making people's lives better. So as we're building projects, we need to make the community's living conditions better. And as you know, in Los Angeles, now I've taken the role of the streets and the urban cooling. One of the things that what I'm working on is how to build active transportation corridors. But the thing I brought in new to it is how to bring water into it. So stormwater is a big issue for Los Angeles. And one thing we're trying to do is reduce our dependence on imported water. And there's a goal that 70% of the water in Los Angeles will be locally sourced by 2035. And the mayor working hard on multiple things. We're going to go to 100% recycled water by 2035. We're spending, I think we're going to spend close to over $10 billion by 2035 on really going to advanced water purification and building pipelines upstream in the system for groundwater recharge. That's a new thing in Los Angeles. We're moving the way to get it done. But I think to me is what makes people excited is when you talk about making their communities green. When they see that you're actually capturing stormwater, but making a space for people to walk, creating an open wetland park that's capturing stormwater and making it a better place. So in these active transportation corridors that I'm working on right now, we're adding trees, we're adding bike lanes, we're making the community a better place, but also I wanted to irrigate all that green space, but you can't do it with potable water. So I'm working on a couple of projects, to put in cisterns in the open active transportation corridor to capture stormwater, put it in the cistern, and reuse it. And during drought and during no rain, we can bring recycled water and fill these tanks so you can irrigate. That really opens people's minds to what we're doing. It's thinking differently. It's making the place a better place to live. We're trying to reduce the electrify our fleet. We're trying to go to 100% renewable energy in Los Angeles. We're bringing solar energy in. Los Angeles last November taxed itself, the community in Los Angeles County taxed itself for stormwater fee. So now we are raising $300 million a year to capture stormwater and to enhance the quality of stormwater in Los Angeles. That's a big shift. Why? Because stormwater is not just flooding, it's not just a pollution. They see it as enhancing the quality of life for the community, because we build wetlands, we build open space and open parks, we're greening communities, and that's a shift. So I would say technology is great. We need to use technology, but we need to gain the trust of the people. They need to see what we're doing is something that's critical to their future, the future of their children. And that's the dialogue that we need to do. Sustainability is critical, but if you can't translate that to something that people can understand, they're not going to support you financially. They can't support you in what you're trying to do. And lastly, I think we need leadership. Leadership comes from our politicians. They need to be courageous. And I'm glad we have Los Angeles Mayor Garcia, who's really pushing us. I meet with him every Monday as a water cabinet. As a cabinet, we meet, we discuss things on multiple levels. Public health, water, and how we're dealing with water. You need a leader that stands up and commits the city to what needs to be done. And I'm just proud of what we have accomplished. And I want to say it's all about connecting the dots and drops and the hearts. It's about connecting all these things together. And if you bring that, it's amazing. Technology, AI, one of the things I'm looking at is how can make what I call, how can we make the job easy for everyone? One time I had a meeting with some CEOs and leaders in the industry in the US, and we were all debating what drives us all. And it was simple. How can you make things easy? If we do our job with the goal of making things easy, it transforms everything. A utility is looking for doing their job in an easy way. A customer wants everything easy, accessible. And at the end of the day, politicians want to see things easy. So when you make a call, you do anything, and we say, oh, that was easy, it's a good thing for all of us. So think about what we do in a way to make people's lives better, people's lives more enhanced, and at the same time, it's you're forwarding them. So I'm doing one project, for example, in AI, is as we are improving our street sweeping to reduce pollution and sweep the city to remove trash, I wanted to add cameras on these street sweepers to give me the condition of the streets, the sidewalks, the trees, and provide, and we're partnering with Mobileye as a pilot to really give me the information I need so I can better serve the community and enhance the services we're doing without really spending too much resources on it, but can give me that information. That's a simple solution for us, what we're trying to do, but the same thing can happen in everything you're doing. Think about how to serve better, how to make people's lives better, and look at the technology that can help you forward you. Don't let the technology lead you. You lead, and let the technology follow you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adel. So I think the type of issues Los Angeles is having are different, completely different than what the issues that Silver is facing. So maybe Silver is the next logical speaker.
Thank you very much. I hope I can get the presentation. Do you want it? Okay, I can do it without. Okay, so what I want to talk about is more of the circular economy, and then I will just conclude a little bit with technology. And I'm told the presentation is there, so it should be okay. Now, national water is a utility, which is a national utility. It covers the whole country, majorly in urban areas of Uganda, and its vision is to be one of the leading utilities in the world, where I don't mind so much about that vision, but it creates a lot of impetus, a lot of energy for everybody to work very hard so that we make services for our people better. Now, the company is in about 700,000 connections, and there has been a lot of improvements in the last 5 years. If you look at the trends, you'll see that the indicators have been moving very, very fast, with the turnover almost tripling, with money enough for us to cover all our operational costs, and creating some little money to cover some of the investments. But because the tariff is not cost recovery, some of the money is provided by government as investment subsidies. Now, there are so many challenges in Africa provides. One of it is, of course, the ever-growing population. And I'm saying this because most of you here, I'm sure you want to partner with Africa and work with us. Climate change is also a big issue. Technology is always changing. And all these are creating opportunities for us to be able to work with partners like you so that we can solve problems in Africa. As I've said, Africa is on the move. You can see the population is growing. We expect that between now and 2050, the population will have grown from 1.1 billion to 2.4 billion, more or less the size of China, I think. Then the urban population will have grown from about 38% to 60%. And then the consumer spending will have grown from $1 trillion US dollars to 4.75 trillion. So there are huge opportunities that are coming up on the African water sector. Now, coming to the circular economy, I don't want to go into the definition of circular economy, but what we are doing in national water is try to promote solar energy. You can see just there, national water is working with GIZ to see how we can work with the energy sector to blend hydropower with solar energy. And all this is meant to bring the cost of power down so that we can be able to reduce the cost of producing water. Now, on the issue of, sorry. Oh, God. Technology again. On the issue of wastewater, we are also designing local solutions. There? Where? Local solutions there. You can see there we are using the effluent from wastewater for irrigation. We are also using dried sludge for fertilizer. And we are also using a double VIP and biofilm toilets as a way of creating local solutions to solve issues of sanitation. We are also partnering with some private sector to produce briquettes. Briquettes are a good way of controlling environmental destruction. Our people cut trees in order to make charcoal. So, and yet, there is a lot of untapped opportunity from wastewater. So we are encouraging people to use the sludge to make biofuel in terms of briquettes so that they can reduce on the cutting of trees. And it's working very well. It's just because our people don't easily accept that you can, from sludge, fecal sludge, you can make biofuel which can be used. But our experience is showing that this is a very, very sustainable way of controlling tree cutting. Now, the other one is through our working with our development partners, we have put up a huge wastewater treatment plant that is going to generate power, biogas, which can be used to power the treatment plant itself. And in this way, we are also conserving the environment. We are not going to use a lot of hydropower, which can eventually be used by others to also do environmental conservation. Lake Victoria is under threat, so the other treatment plant I've shown you is actually meant to treat some of the wastewater that is currently going direct into the lake, causing a lot of nutrients, causing a lot of eutrophication, so that the lake can be protected. So in that way, we are also contributing to a circular economy. The future projects, we are looking at new technologies that can be able to create new water. We are mostly looking at how we can generate our own local solutions. Actually, when I come here, I don't come here to buy technology. I come here to buy ideas, how I can work together with you to create our own technologies back home. And I know most people don't like it. They want to sell their technology, but I won't buy your technology. I will buy your ideas. If you have your technology, tell me how you did it, and that's the area we can cooperate in to see how my people, like now we are trying to create our own prepaid meter solution, and I'm looking at people who are assembling meters to see how they can help me to produce these meters massively. We are also incorporating environmental protection in all our projects so that we can be able to sustainably be able to manage these utilities. Finally, what I didn't put there was the issue of technology. I want to agree with Kike that technology per se is not a panacea. Technology must come when people in the utility believe that it is going to help them to improve performance. Technology must come when people can pay for it. And it must come in a prioritized way. Like in Africa, most companies have not reached all the people. So you have to choose between modernizing or investing some of the money to expand services to the people. So we have to apply it. It's a good one. And I like the idea of using a systemic approach. But I think all this must come hand in hand with the problems which are facing the utility, the problems which the stakeholders, especially politicians, see as problems, so that we can all work together in a holistic way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silver. Great segue into financing. So maybe Alistair could take the next spot and talk to us about financing.
Thank you, Mohsen, and thank you for WEX for inviting me. I really like the comment that you have to be nice to me because of the money. I tried to do that with my team recently because it was salary and bonus time, and said you have to be nice to me, and it lasted a week, and then it was back to business as normal. So you can just be your normal selves to me, in fact. The first thing, I work for a strange institution. It's called a multilateral regional development bank. It has the word Europe in it, which always confuses people because we operate outside of Europe, with the exception of some of the new countries inside Europe. So it's really the countries of the former Soviet Union, Central Eastern Europe. Then we added Turkey, then we added Mongolia, and now we've added countries of the Arab Spring, and in the next year or so we'll be adding Sub-Saharan Africa to our countries. So the word Europe for us is a little bit confusing. Just to also say is that we're not a European-owned institution. We're not the European Investment Bank, which is the house bank of the EU. Our largest shareholder is the US government. So we're owned by 70 governments, from the very largest economies of China, India, and the US, to San Marino, which I'm very proud of, that they decided to join us. So 70 governments. It makes our governance structure rather interesting because our owners actually live with us in our headquarters in London. So if you can imagine the governance of a board that actually lives with its operation, always makes for fun. So we're driven, we are a bank. We use taxpayers' money, or at least in the sense that when we were capitalized originally, but we've grown from that original capitalization by investing in projects. And so while we started at a capitalization of a rather small 10 billion, we now have a capital of about 36 billion. So you can make money in the public sector. It's an interesting business model because we can borrow sub-LIBOR and lend post-LIBOR, and we don't pay taxes to our countries of operation or to our owners. So it's a great business model. But that means that we can generate these sort of large sums of money for investment. So at the moment, we're investing about 10 billion euros a year. Sounds like a lot of money, but let me give you a bit of context. We and our fellow institutions like the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and the World Bank, we have been challenged. We have been challenged by our owners, and that is to really focus on two things going forward. The Sustainable Development Goals, which you hear a lot about, but probably don't really have much interaction with, and what's called Paris alignment. And that's all about climate change. And for us, climate change is about water and it's about energy. It's either too much water or not enough water. I saw that on one of the slides. It's about creating sustainable energy. It's about the circular economy. So these things have really driven the regional development banks and the World Bank for the last few years. We've been challenged to make our investments from billions to trillions. Why are we challenged? Well, let's be honest, our governments who own us can't afford it. They don't have the sums of money that are needed for climate change action. They don't have the sums of money for the Sustainable Development Goals. They need the private sector. They cannot do this all on their own. And we operate as a sort of like an interface between the private sector and the sovereigns that own us. So last year, for instance, the multilateral development banks put in $43 billion worth of investments for climate change or in the green space. Those 43 billions is just a tip on the iceberg of what is actually really needed in the world at the moment, which is trillions. Trillions of investment are needed. It's estimated that the infrastructure gap in the global south is about $60 trillion. These are unimaginable amounts of investment that are needed. Now, how are we going to get there? Well, it's really by there's an opportunity there, which is bringing the private sector's expertise to use their resources. There's over $100 trillion in the pension funds. Pension funds are incredibly conservative. Why would they invest in the global south? Why would they invest in infrastructure? Well, one of the things we can do is we can de-risk some of the large infrastructure projects. So that's a very important role going forward, is basically taking out the uncertainty for large infrastructure projects. One of the keynote speakers on the first session said that there wasn't a problem of financing projects. I actually fundamentally agree and disagree in a way, in that yes, we can find money for financing projects. Finding projects is actually an even bigger challenge than financing them in some ways. So there is a shortage of infrastructure projects out there that need to be built. And so that's another role that the multilaterals can play, in that we can develop and finance all the feasibility studies. We can prepare projects. We can advise governments how to do PPPs. And that's one of the roles of institutions like myself, is to really create the investment environment for infrastructure projects to go ahead. So, things are changing. The world is changing. We're driven. We are on a mission. But we're seeing some great successes. I remember 10 years ago, we were actually saying renewable energy projects, they're great. We'd love to do them, but they're not credit worthy. The developers are too small and they're too risky, and we weren't going to do them. 10 years later, we're proud to be financing the largest PV array in Africa, a 1.5 gigawatt array of PV, which is one of the world's largest, if not the world's largest. That's in Egypt. So the world has completely changed, and we're seeing the world is full of opportunities, either on the water side, the circular economy, or on climate change issues. And another way that the world is changing is the instruments that we use. So I mentioned risk sharing, guarantees, etc., but also utilizing capital markets, using green bonds. So one of the things the World Bank, EIB, EBRD, etc., is creating a brand new class of financial instruments called green bonds. And they can be utilized for financing wastewater treatment plant or a water treatment plant. We recently, I think last week, we issued a bond for 500 million, and by the time it hit Europe, it had oversubscribed by 3 times before we even floated into the US market. So there is huge appetite out there for green bonds from the capital markets. And you know, it basically means there is a wealth of money out there to fund green projects. So there is money available. We can make that move from billions to trillions, and with hard work we can do it. And I'm not quite sure what that noise is.
Sound effect.
It's the sound of money, I think. But thank you very much.
Alistair, that might have been your digital twin trying to tell you something. So, Joao, maybe you can tell us how it all comes together now. You have partners in your partnership from all 4 sectors. So maybe you can bring it together, and then hopefully we'll have time for a couple of questions after.
Good, fantastic, thank you. That's a bit of a challenge. About myself and the Portuguese Water Partnership, basically we're a cluster association promoting the international engagement of our members, which range from public and private companies to universities, research institutions, civil society organizations, and actually government agencies. Now, Mohsen Mortada mentioned 4 topics that he would like to center the debate today. So that's my mission, is to check those 4 points. One was technology, second one, climate change and resilience, the third one, financing of infrastructure, and the fourth one, talent and resource availability. I'll focus on sharing with you the half problem that we have in Portugal. The expression half problem, I'll come back, we'll try to illustrate it via my comments. Let us start with talent and resource availability. As a youngster in the late 70s, early 80s, I used to get asked, what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I knew there were at least 4 industries that I didn't want to be engaged in, because those were the boring professions at the time. Telephony companies, postal services, energy, and water. 3 of those industries have since become actually quite cool industries to work with. And water is getting there. Now, what we've seen at different times over these past decades is these industries were positively impacted by different mixes of the combination of competition, of the need for greater customer orientation, customer focus, of deregulation, of corporatization of service provision, and all of that. Okay? So to the extent that water, and I think it's getting there, at least in Portugal, and it will continue to be there, an increasingly challenging, inspiring, and cool industry for people to work with, I won't be too much worried about talent. Now, moving to technology. The problem in terms of technology, at least in terms of the way I see the Portuguese water sector, is that there is a lack of innovation, or no. The issue very frequently is that we have technologies that some utilities in Portugal or overseas have been using for 20 years, haven't yet been fully widespread. So what worries me is the speed at which technology dissemination takes place across the sector. Why? That's half the problem. We have 50% of the population which is served by, utilities that have the scale, the capabilities, the resources to be corporatized and professionally managed, okay? So that's the half of the problem that we don't have. Half the population is still fragmented by very small scale utilities, where you have, perhaps in a small municipality of 2,000 people, not one engineer. The engineer, he's the man who needs to worry about water, needs to worry about transportation, cemeteries, and the summer festival, okay? So he doesn't get to attend conferences, he doesn't get to interact or to have the time or the resources to be up to date in adopting new technology. So as you'll see, I'll put a lot of emphasis on governance, regulation, and sector structure. So there, the big challenge, and this is to the extent that this is common in many other countries as it is, I think that's really a key barrier, combined with very conservative and risk-averse procurement practices by typically public utilities. Yeah, there's an asymmetry of incentives when and risk aversion when it comes to that. Climate change and resilience. That will vary a lot. I won't try to say things which are universally applicable. In the specific case of Portugal, in my mind, it's very simple. Droughts, the pressure won't be on urban services. It will clearly be on agriculture, okay? So that will be fun politically. Now, when it comes to floods, a trend over the past 10 years, there is increasing pressure to make sure that water utilities not only manage water supply and wastewater, urban wastewater, but also integrate the management of stormwater, of rainwater, into their scope of service. In some cases, this may sound strange. In the case of Portugal, there were a lot of utilities where you had different entities managing wastewater and other ones, and typically the municipalities worrying about stormwater. Big debate is about on the financing model to recover the costs associated with stormwater. Okay, should that be on the tariff? Should there be some other sort of specific tax or cost recovery mechanism to ensure that? But stormwater was neglected for decades, but now it's clearly and increasingly on the agenda. Financing, again, half a problem. Nowadays, when it comes to water supply, we have cost recovery via tariffs close to 100%, and we're at 70 to 80% on wastewater. These percentages, I've been monitoring them for the past 20 years, started at roughly 60% for water and 30% for wastewater. That solved the problem. Again, let us remember, these are averages, which means that if your head is in the oven and your fridge in the refrigerator, you're on average at a good temperature. So we have problems of many utilities with cost recovery. Now the other problem, again, stems back to the fact that we don't really have a fully corporatized utility sector, regardless of then if the shareholders are public or private, that's a different debate, is that out of a set of legal constraints that are placed on public administration, even many of these utilities, even if they have full cost recovery, legally they just can't go to the bank. It has to be the municipality to do it. So, I mean, of course, Alistair Clark was talking about, projects that involve hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. What I'm talking about is, a utility that is still, many utilities that need, perhaps €500,000. They're not going to talk to EBRD. They need to go to the local bank, yeah? And they need to have a corporatized structure so that they're not volatile in terms of the political cycle of local mayors and elections and all that, to be able to come up to a normal financial institution with ultimately a bankable project. So in essence, that would be the comments that I would like to share with you on, at least in terms of the Portuguese sector, we see these 4 key topics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been told we have time for one question, but I'd like to do a quick summary before. I think it's very important to, we heard different perspectives and very diverse ones, but they all led to the same thing. So I think, starting with agility, that was a very important perspective. Then looking at broader approach to sustainability, that's, instead of taking it literally. And then Adel talked about building communities, how important that is. Then Silver talked about the growth that's happening in Africa and the resource needs. Alistair also talked about the financing that's available for that. And Joao brought it all together nicely. So I appreciate that. So any questions from the audience? Leon.
Thank you, Mohsen. Leon Auerbach from International Consulting Consultancy. I have a quick 2 questions to Jose and Adel. Jose, you, I'm sure, watched with interest the results of Diwa Hussein road job, which really brought incredible low prices, 30 cents per cubic meter of seawater desalination, 31 cents from Agua, 30 cents in round number from Utico. This is incredible. We are coming back to 30 years ago goal of 25 cents per cubic meter, which was a target by Office of Saline Water in the US. So my question to you is how we are getting there and where we are going to stop lowering the prices to the point that really we achieve 25 cents. And Adel, you have a great story about stormwater, but your neighbors in Orange County do sewage treatment to indirect potable use. So I am kind of looking how to combine the sewage with the salting to dilute the seawater, which is, and therefore achieve dramatic reduction in energy consumption. Even with the low prices, we still consume 3 kW hours per cubic meter. If you dilute that with stormwater, sewage water, or other sources, we can get to 1.75. That is the goal. So both comments, please.
Thank you, Leon. Jose?
Thanks. Okay, so yeah, that's a question, Leon. Well, to me, firstly, I think that is a very positive thing for everybody. I mean, for the sector, for the clients, from a global perspective, the reduction in pricing that we have seen in desalination over the last 3 years. That's a very positive approach because that would bring diesel to a much wider field of opportunities, for example, agriculture, to some type of crops, that before that was impossible to think about it. Having said that, I think that we need to be also realistic in the assessment that we are doing for this type of projects, because the last thing we all would like to see is having defaulting projects in the short or mid-term. That's another important thing. So what would be the basis for that? I think that we need to ask the people that is achieving those prices. I mean, we are part of that. I mean, we have been part of that in one of the recent tenders in the region. But to me, this is an asymptotic approach, and the room for implementation or improvement under the current scenario and technology has a limit. And this limit could be only passed working with assumptions from the energy side, or working with very aggressive assumptions in the mid and long term O&M cost in terms of consumable replacements and these type of things that could be accurate or not. It's a bet. It's a bet that some companies are willing to undertake, some others are not willing to undertake. So I would say we all should be happy about what has been achieved, but I would like to also make a point on being cautious, not to go in too far for just having to cry later on what we have developed over these years.
Thank you, Jose. I got the 1 minute warning from.
I'll be very quick. It's LA right now we're doing about 30% recycling of wastewater, and the issue with desal is environmentally it's not accepted, because before you go to desal, because at the end of the day, if you do desal, you're close to the ocean, and the demand is further higher up in the system. And so right now what we're doing is in our treatment plants upstream, we are going to advanced water purification and groundwater recharge. That's 30 million gallons a day. That's being done right now. Also, we have reconfigured through One Water planning our sewer system. Instead of going all the way down to the ocean, is we are now rediverting it through pumping into the system that is now being upgraded for groundwater recharge. And by the way, water conservation is a big deal for us, because we're using the same water today as we did 50 years ago, with almost 2 million more people. But what happened with water conservation, you reduce the amount of wastewater. So now we're running out of wastewater to recycle. But stormwater is a big issue because you have to comply with water quality mandates and permits, and we need to invest in cleaning that up and reusing it. So the priority of the city is stormwater, water conservation to reduce consumption, stormwater capture and reuse, advanced water purification, which is recycled. We're going to 100% by 2035. We're doing the same thing. We're building the system to go all the way through a regional distribution to do groundwater recharge, which is indirect potable use. Continue to also, hopefully we'll have direct potable use at some point. The regulations are underway. But desal, I think, to me, it's all the same. Is what is the source of water and how you're going to minimize the distance you have to distribute that water. The distribution, I think, becomes the biggest issue more than anything else, because really it's removing pollutants out of water, whether it's the ocean, the salt, whether it's wastewater, whether it's stormwater. And to me, it's all the same. The thing you need to do is which one provides you the least cost when it comes to distribution and reuse.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. I'd like to give a hand to the panel, please. And then to our host, Dionisio. Thank you for hosting us in the great city, Valencia.
Thank you very much to everybody for coming. Just a few words just to say, as our Portuguese colleague said, the water industry is every day more cool to work in. I think technology has a lot to see on that, but as others say, don't forget people first. And in England they say KISS, which is keep it simple and stupid. I would say KISU, which is keep it simple and useful. So thank you very much.